and welcome to Season 6, Episode 5 of the Fortnightly Frontier, featuring Mr. Darjanator.
Nope, other way.
Yep.
There I am.
and me, Myre. This is the Fortnightly podcast where we talk about all things Star Citizen, and this week we're talking about luxury in the verse.
Mm-hmm.
Why, you may ask? Because it's a topic we haven't covered yet.
No. And it's a topic that's also in the the zeitgeist currently in the Star Citizen community. There's been quite a few topics about it.
In the times. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
There have been
primarily because we got a bit of a glimpse into the workings and the design of the 890 jump in the previous ATV.
That's very true. The 890 jump was in the last ship shape, and I do believe that I actually have this. We can actually show off the 890 jump and some of the latest stuff that they've shown off. But yeah, like luxury in the verse. It's an interesting concept, to be honest. Like, a lot of video game companies, like, you know, they don't necessarily say something is a luxury. There are luxury items, but at the same time, I wouldn't class them as luxury items in the same way that Star Citizen wants to have luxury items in their kind of diegetic universe. Like, for instance, with Anthem, a luxury item is a $20 like a Javelin skin, you know, because you're paying actual money for it. It is
microtransactions.
Yes, exactly. It's a real life luxury. It's a luxury good, the same way, like, you know, for instance, I don't know, buying Gucci is luxury or whatever, right? But like in Star Citizen, they have a whole subset of stuff that is just called luxury that is kind of making its own reality within the universe and kind of changing up what that means in a video game. And the 890 jump and the Origin series and all that stuff kind of is the beginnings of that. But yeah, like, but what is luxury in Star Citizen, Darj?
Yeah, what should it mean? Yeah, because like you said in Anthem, it's something you buy, but you know, it's no secret that in Star Citizen, this is exactly what you do all the time. You give CIG money, and they give you stuff. So everything should be a luxury item at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, classically speaking, everything in Star Citizen right now is a luxury item because everything is paid for with real money. But, like, in terms of Star Citizen, like, luxury items are more or less just items that are nicer looking, and that's about it.
That's a subjective thing, though. I mean, if you're paying, actually, if there's no difference in approach or let's say difficulty of gaining something, looking nicer, it's just a subjective thing. A lot of people will say that Drake ships look a lot nicer than Origin ships, and you know,
that's fair enough. I mean, I guess it's to do with the design intent, right? Like with Drake stuff, Drake is meant to be like utilitarian. It's beautiful in its ugliness, but it's meant to be very rugged, you know, like it whereas things like Origin are meant to be like really smooth, really shiny, and
so that's, I suppose, a design tenet that they're telling us is luxurious, but is it actually? I mean, like, okay, so maybe if we drew parallels to real life, luxury and opulence and stuff like that, what defines it?
Right.
A higher price tag, for one.
Okay.
Like, so if higher build quality, which, you know, kind of comes with a higher price tag, you know, more hours spent on design, engineering, production. If we're talking like physical item, like a ship right now, if you know, or in real life, like a car, maybe a Rolls Royce or a Bentley, more time spent designing, engineering, building, finishing, you know, that brings with itself a price. It's not a super mass-produced product that they can just pump out for, like, let's say, an Aurora.
Right.
If we're talking items, what about a luxury lifestyle?
A luxury
How could that
lifestyle
transfer?
within Star Citizen.
Within Star Citizen, you know what is the one thing that would make this would do it?
Okay, what?
Staff.
That is actually like that
Hired
was what I was
staff.
thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
A
help.
butler, a maid, someone to do things for you while
Right.
you luxuriate and grow ever fatter.
Okay.
If you want to grab the latest VIP tickets for the next Murray Cup race, you have someone to do it for you. You don't do it yourself.
Right. I don't want to like overstep topics because we have discussed a kind of like where the conversation is gonna go. But with the topic of staff and having to pay the staff and for that to be like the true luxury, I guess you kind of have to also have the things for the staff to do. I mean, like, are they crew positions? Are they like literally like a butler that stands in one place in your hab? But
That's what I meant. It's different from the crew. It's not staff that will operate the ship.
Right.
It's just staff that will do the things you ask them to do.
Right. So
do your bed, lay out your finest clothes for the day, and stuff like that.
You're suggesting like stuff for the game in order to make your life a tiny bit, like more streamlined, so you don't have to necessarily do all these things yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe also that can filter into other gameplay, like for instance cargo, and having to manage your cargo manually as opposed to having it automatically done by NPCs and stuff. But my question with all that and like having to pay those NPCs is that would that be making Star Citizen in a way more pay to win? Because there is the ability to purchase UEC using real life money. So that kind of gives people who do have that money the ability to essentially win, more than other people.
I mean, but that's how it is in real life. You
Right.
make the money and you spend the money. I didn't want to attach this to the notion of actually buying UEC with money because buying UEC with money isn't limited to just the people who want this lifestyle. It's available to also to other people who don't want the luxury lifestyle, who just want the biggest freighter, who want the most gunboaty of gunboats.
I think that they're kind of tied hand in hand, though. I mean, like, sure, but if you want to have luxury and pay money, you can pay through the nose to fuel that luxurious lifestyle. But yeah,
But you can also pay through the nose to fuel your pirate lifestyle, where you still have to do everything yourself. It's a different, regardless of how you finance it, whether by building your empire within the game or just having your credit card attached to your Star Citizen account. It's a different outlook on gameplay, and it's a different direction you want to go in.
Right. That's fair enough.
Because I don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, but the reason why I bring it up is because it's kind of the elephant in the room in Star Citizen in terms of anything related to things like luxury and stuff. But I mean, as far as Star Citizen goes, like, and as far as luxury as we know it in Star Citizen is, I mean, sure, we have the 890 jump. We know that is, like the luxurious ship. We know ships in general. We know the Origin line are all, luxury items within the verse. So they are slightly larger. They are slightly more pretty. They're more streamlined and that kind of thing. Then they're,
more empty. Like,
yes, but
bigger rooms with less in it is apparently the tenant here.
Yeah, and like they command a greater price whilst not necessarily doing more than the other ships. That's kind of like what luxury kind of means right now in Star Citizen. But that's for ships. But what other items and stuff would constitute as luxury in Star Citizen? So, because so far in the game, all we really have for luxury are ships. We used to have the executive flight suit, and that used to be worth more Alpha UEC than the others, and that could have been considered luxury. But ever since a few patches ago, they've all been the same price. But in the future, what do you think?
Sure. Well, yeah, but going back to like a notion I said before, it should be more expensive, so it should be more exclusive. Like you have to pay more to get it. Just like in real life, if you want a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or a Gucci handbag or Prada shoes, you will add another zero to the price tag that you would for a normal item of the same function. But does that exist in Star Citizen? Is an 890 jump that much more expensive than a ship that would do the same sort of role without being a yacht?
Yes. I think the 890 jump is one of the more expensive ships in the game.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, the 890 jump is literally $890 and then plus tax.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Plus tax.
Okay, let's go for it. But, along the same line of thought, suit... Sure. There's some clothing, the civilian clothing, that's much more expensive. Like the red top with the sash around the waist, and the leather shoes, and the very nicely ironed or creased, or whatever you want to call them. The black pants. Those are actually quite expensive. So I suppose we have a couple of those items.
Okay,
we don't have any locations yet.
So they have mentioned HABs though.
True.
And honestly, I think that the Hurston CBD, or the HD CBD, or whatever they call it, is kind of like the first step towards having luxury locations and HABs, because there's a location within Lorville that they haven't actually released yet, and that is the Executive Gardens. That all the hoity-toity people, like they go in, like they breathe air, and then they come down and fart, and then go back up and breathe more air and stuff.
Oh, so is that why the atmosphere on Hurston is so pants, just because of those rich people farting?
Yes, yeah. They descended from cows. They tore a hole in our own ozone layer and decided to move somewhere else. That's that's in the lore. You should look it up, guys. There's some serious stuff going down there.
But you mentioned like HABs. I think it's the like this sort of announcer lady that just pipes up every once in a while when you're walking through L19. There exists habitation for all.
Yeah, for all price points.
Price points, yeah, sure. Currently, we have the lowest, I suppose.
I believe it's the
lowest.
Or
with a cardboard box or fridge comes in the lowest.
I believe as far as Star Citizen goes, it's the lowest in terms of Hurston Dynamics like working hierarchy. Like it's literally the hab within the what's it even called? The Metro Center. That's like ground zero or whatever, like the starting point.
Well, no, the Metro Center is where all the lines converge.
Right.
L19 is one of the buildings where HABs are located.
Right.
And there's L18 and 17 and so forth.
Right, but L19 just so happens to be inside the Metro Center.
Or adjacent, right adjacent to it. Yeah.
So we have a couple questions in chat already. So Glow says, would either of you buy a newly released luxury model of a ship if it was a true limited edition, say 1,000 ships? Darch?
No, because I've decided that that is, at least for the moment, or at least for game start, is not a gameplay line I want to go down on. I want to rough it on the outskirts of known space in my Carrack.
Right.
Well, build up to it and then go do that.
Yeah. I think that as far as that goes, the only ship that we know of that has a proper numbered run is the Eclipse, the bomber. Like that actually did have like a proper numbered serialized, like each ship has its own specific number. I think that they might go back and then give ships that we had bought, like the luxury ones at least, numbers as well. But they made sure that the Eclipse bombers had like proper numbers. And I think that, yeah, like 2 or 3 years down the line, somebody with like a 000X, like a reg tag bomber might be able to sell that for a lot more money because Red Dawn says
it's one of the first.
The Polaris has numbers too. All right, so there you go.
I think it was the Polaris, not the Eclipse that you were talking about.
I think the Eclipse also has them as well.
Okay.
I remember the Eclipse campaign, but yeah. So I think that there will be a market for it, and I can understand why some people will buy more than they would generally want to because of that resale value.
So that's like artificial scarcity within an artificial scarcity ecosystem that Star Citizen ships are already.
Exactly.
Eh,
But I mean, it's exactly why. It's exactly why I feel like the Mustang Omega is going to just command such a high price, because like the Mustang Omega is something that CIG or CI can no longer contractually, they cannot sell it. They don't own it. They sold the idea, they sold the concept of that ship to AMD. Only AMD can say, hey, we want to make a new run of these ships.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, they could right now. I mean, they are about to release the new Radeon cards, Radeon 7.
Right.
So I suppose, that this would be as good a time as any to start a new campaign. Also, the Saber Raven. Is Intel still selling Optanes with the Raven bundled?
I have no idea, because I've heard people say that they bought an Optane drive and it didn't come with the sleeve that has a thing in it. So I think that maybe that was only for the initial run, or maybe they keep getting more in stock with it. I have no idea how that's working.
Maybe,
I don't know how long.
Then again, I think it was it Firefly or was it someone else on Reddit who no, it wasn't Firefly, because it was someone who's not even connected to Star Citizen. For a server infrastructure thing that we're building, they bought 5 Optane drives.
Okay.
And they came with 5 Saber Ravens. And then they went on to Reddit and posted the codes. And the first 5 people who got them and put them in got the Raven.
Oh wow, how nice of them. I know that you can't redeem more than one. If you already own a Raven, you can't put in another.
Oh really? That's odd.
At least I think that's the case, because you can't gift them either if you've already redeemed them, I think.
That's weird.
So, yeah, as you mentioned, AMD could say, hey, yeah, we want to release more of these codes. I don't know how it works. I don't know how code generation for ships in Star Citizen work for ships that CI no longer actually own. But yeah, that's a thing. So in the future,
I think it would still they would still have to do it in conjunction with CI.
Yeah,
it's so weird saying CI.
Yeah, I know. It's gone from what's it called? SIG to criminal informant. Or CI. CI is short for criminal informant.
Is it? All right.
At least in the TV shows I always watch. That's why it confuses me.
I see.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was always weird calling them RSI, because RSI to me is like repetitive strain injury, right? So
which I do have. I mean, I every couple of maybe every 12 months or 18 months.
It's seasonal for you, or what?
Yeah, I think it just coincides with a work overload because it's not my work doesn't have a constant load. There's dips and rises, and there's a couple of months in a year where it's a nightmare, and then my wrist, I cannot click anymore.
So there is, you were talking about locations earlier. So we talked about HABs, but one that we didn't talk about, and one that has actually been around for a bit, are hangars. And we've actually had the Revel in York hangar for a while. I mean, but looking at it now, it does look a bit old, doesn't it? It looks a bit like it looks aged a tiny bit. It hasn't aged with the rest of the verse, and we know luxury and I guess the materials and textures and stuff. Like way back then.
It's the top floor is a bit more of what I was thinking about, because you have lounging areas. But I'm sure eventually we'll have a butler, just roaming the top floor, to just going from person to person and asking if they would like another drink or something like that.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, in the future, how would they flesh out these hangars? Because they are such large spaces. Like, once you start putting ships in there, they don't seem so large anymore, and you need like massive corridors of these things for you to see everything. It makes a lot of sense for CI to just kind of make it so that the ships just spawn when you want them and keep your hangars smaller. But I like the idea of having customizable hangars like we do here, for organizations and stuff, like places for your org to meet up, hang out, and all that kind of stuff. Like how I believe ArcCorp is going to be when it comes back. It's a chill out location.
Are hangars getting a revamp? Are they slated to get a revamp soon?
I don't know. As far as I know, they are not. But
the org system is, and maybe the hangars would be connected to that. We don't know though, because this week it was said on Friday that Star Citizen roadmap will get a big update, including patches 3.7 and 3.8. So maybe in a couple of days we'll get that answer.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't revamp the hangars, they're gonna scrap them because they haven't aged very well. But I don't think they're gonna scrap them because they have been a sort of starting point ever since the beginning of Star Citizen. So if to scrap them at this point would be a bit weird. Yeah, and plus they've spent the past 3 or so years now giving out hangar flair, which requires a hanger to decorate them, well,
they could just rename them to Hab Flare and
that's true.
Give you the ability to everything that you've already received, to put them wherever you make your home.
Yeah. Duncan in chat asks, is the game 8 years old now? So the game isn't actually, well, it's not born yet, if you know what I mean.
No. Technically, it wouldn't even be 8 years old, because in 2012 the company started with 13 people, and the game actually only started production in 2013.
Something like that. Yeah.
At best, it's 6 years old.
Yeah, the game as an idea, as a studio, with a scope and with a goal, is about 6 years. But I mean, the game
is an idea. The game is an idea. It's much older.
I mean,
we were talking about it before the podcast started, and there's a video that resurfaced recently of Chris Roberts discussing all the concepts that are being put into Star Citizen now, back in 1997 already.
That's very true. I mean, back then, he released several games afterwards, but yeah, even back then, before the tech was even ready, he was talking about how he wanted to make a game with everything that we currently have or working towards in Star Citizen. So I guess as an idea, sure. I mean, it's been around for a while, but as an actual game with, in motion and stuff, it's younger, but it's not actually.
It's younger. Yet. The first patch, the first playable version was 2014, or was it 2015? It was when we only had the hangars and a couple of ships to look at from the outside.
Yeah. So, moving the conversation back to luxury within Star Citizen, I guess one thing we haven't covered, I mean, we were talking about luxurious items and what constitutes as that. I mean, so we had ships, that's in the game. Clothes, it's in there, but it's not quite...
It's constantly developing. The content is constantly being added, just like with ships.
Yeah. Locations. We talked about the possibility of luxurious habs, and Todd Pappy even mentioned that there were going to be luxurious habs. If I could talk on that a little bit more. I mean, so he mentioned that, for instance, in the future, when we get to that point, habs and stuff will be persistent items within the verse. There's going to be a limited number thanks to server meshing. Like hab 1AC in L19 is going to be, if I was to buy that hab 1AC at L19, that's my hab. And even if somebody in China goes to 1AC L19 in the Chinese shard, they can't use that hab because that is mine. So
Hurston easily has enough room to house every player.
Oh, definitely. Ever. I mean, Lorville alone is the size of Austin, Texas. So
we're getting Microtech, which is a city.
Yep, Microtech with New Babbage is the city, and all that other stuff.
Microtech is the planet. New Babbage is a city that envelops the entire planet.
Yeah. And we're also getting ArcCorp as well, with which is basically a planet full of buildings. So we're never ever going to run out of space.
Oh, sure. No, that's the one I was talking about. ArcCorp, not Microtech. Yes.
All right, yeah.
ArcCorp, which is the city enveloping the entire planet, and go there.
Yeah, and so as far as luxury goes, they can easily say, okay, well, in the entire game, there were only 20 of these high hoity-toity, hoi polloi, like, habs. Have at it. And then, like, you have to rent them and stuff, and you have to, like, keep working towards them, and only, like, the top guild leaders can ever have these habs.
Yeah, which I don't like that, though.
Why not?
Like I said before, artificial scarcity is not something that you want to.
But it's not artificial, though.
It is if they decide there's only going to be 20 of them.
Like 20 bespoke buildings that fit within the CBD. They fit there physically because all these habs are going to be physical items within the verse.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So,
but they decide how many it's gonna be.
Well, I mean,
it could be 20,000.
No, they would have to make the CBD bigger to fit 20,000 of them because they fit physically within the CBD.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, there have to be limits and constraints in place.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I guess it'll also
like on our corp, then they couldn't really have an excuse that there are
exactly, yeah.
That they only have room for 20 because they have the entire planet surface being basically a homogeneous texture, so they could have that many CBDs. If they, well, it's going to be something else, like
right.
But yeah, artificial scarcity is not something that I ever supported. But then again, if you want a luxury lifestyle, you have to put some sort of limitation on it, because if everyone is part of the luxury gameplay, nobody is.
I mean, like,
if everyone's special, nobody is special.
You can argue that the concept of UEC is artificial scarcity, because the more you get the money, the more you can afford the stuff, and it's artificial.
There isn't an actual limit, a top cap on UEC that is distributed then across the entire population.
But I have to earn UEC to get this stuff. If you just gave me unlimited UEC,
artificial. That's not scarcity. That's just difficulty level of getting it.
So is
artificial scarcity would be having a single 890 jump that only one person can have, which is something that sort of exists in the real world. You have bespoke yachts, bespoke ships that only one of exists.
But you see,
but that's not artificial scarcity, because once CIG or CI makes a digital ship, they can make sell an infinite amount of them.
But you see, so I'm fine with artificial scarcity as long as it helps to drive the narrative of this living, breathing universe and stuff. If everybody had access to everything, then there wouldn't be all these interactions between players and stuff in order to kind of like, well, tell a story, because everybody would have their own thing. Like the Bengal carrier, for instance, if there were like 100,000 Bengals instead of maybe 2 or 3 that people can find and put together, then there won't be all these wars to try and get these Bengal carriers. No one will care about them. Like the value within the value of the Bengal will diminish, not only in terms of, well, its actual physical value because there's so many of them, but also the value in the hearts of the players will also be diminished. What's the point? Big whoop if there's so many people that can have it. Yeah. Give me my 20 amazing habs, Darch. Give me my amazing habs.
Sure. No, well, it's. I suppose you could make it somewhat. Well, you have to limit it. There has to be a mechanism that limits everyone from getting it. Is a Bengal is different than an 890 jump, though.
A Bengal is different from an 890 jump. Sure,
yes, because one is a military ship that the government, like lore-wise, the government has a stranglehold on the production and operation of them. An 890 jump is produced by a civilian company for anyone that can afford it.
Okay.
But so if there shouldn't be like a lore-based rule that prevents you, for any sort of other reason other than being able to afford it, from getting one.
But it's the lore, though. It's the lore. It's like saying that, why should there be? Let's say hypothetically, there's a Star Wars game, and only a few people can be Jedi because in Star Wars, only a few people can be Jedi, right? And you're saying, why? And then then you make Star Wars KOTOR, and it's boring and bland because everybody can be Jedi. The lore is in place to make things richer in terms of.
I'm just trying to think of something to back up my point.
I like this. I like that we're on two sides of this. Normally we're always like, yep, move on, next question.
But going back, like in real life, there already are also such things like Ferrari, for instance.
Okay.
Makes a car that can't be registered to use on road.
Right.
It can only be used on a track. It can only be used on a track that Ferrari approves of. And it can only be used when Ferrari says so. And the car is kept at Ferrari headquarters. And you have to call them and arranged for the use. Even though you've already given them over €1 million for it. It's called the FXX.
Right.
And you can only buy one if you're already in good standing with Ferrari. So owning several of their cars and, treating them with what they would consider adequate respect, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of artificial scarcity does already exist, with such pretentious brands as Ferrari.
Right. Okay, fair enough. I think I saw a decent question actually on this. So Kavixton asks, but people will keep earning money in the game, right? So there's an infinite, I guess there's infinite opportunity to make more credits. Yeah. How will you prevent everyone from doing the luxury style of life? So Kavixton is asking, how would you keep luxurious in Star Citizen?
A scarcity.
How do you keep luxury luxurious? And do you think it's necessary in Star Citizen? That's my additional question.
Necessary to make it scarce. Well, you would have to do something to make it special.
I mean, but
otherwise it's just it, because luxury on its own denotes a sort of higher standing in society.
Right.
A higher ranking.
Okay.
So it should be something that should be aspired to, so above other gameplay loops, I suppose.
Right.
Above exploration or cargo hauling or mining, which are, middle class occupations. It is not for us to mingle with such lower castes. That sort of pretentiousness, is something that is at least somewhat connected to the word luxury.
Okay, so I feel that you can keep luxury luxurious by creating adequate money sinks in the game. It's one thing to earn a ship and to have it, but I guess it's another thing to then for upkeep. You need to there need to be enough adequate money sinks in the game so that sure you have your 890 jump or whatever, but then you need to staff it. You need to fuel it. You need to maintain it, repair it, and that will make it so that if you can't do all those things, then you can't successfully operate that. The same goes for these hypothetical limited habs in Hurston, the 20 limited habs in Hurston with the executive gardens and everything, right? So you'll have to rent that hab, and the moment you come short with rent, then somebody else then gets the opportunity to rent it. I think that things like that will at least make luxury seem more luxurious, and it'll reward players who have the ability to spend more time in the game, or organizations that have more time to cooperate and earn more in the game. That's how I feel like it
suppose
works.
The only fair limitation would be just make it far more expensive than all the other gameplay loops. If you want to hire staff that is qualified to even operate such a vehicle like the 890 jump, paying the NPC would be much more than you would have to pay an NPC to run, a caterpillar, for instance.
Right.
And insurance should be much more expensive because, even your insurance company, well, that should sort of, I suppose, be tied to the base price of the ship, which is huge.
Right. So we've talked about ships, clothes, flair. I mean, we haven't talked about flair specifically, but I guess flair is part of it, right? So like luxurious things to like just put on stuff to make your character or environment look better. So ships,
like
clothes,
piano.
flair, habs, locations,
Activities.
Yeah. So gameplay. What kind of VIP gameplay do you think they will have in Star Citizen?
Lounging about on the deck of your 890 jump right next to a Murray Cup race that's going on. On a yacht in Monte Carlo while an F1 race is going on.
So I mean,
that's
sure.
something
Lounging sounds
rich people work.
Lounging sounds all well and good, sure, but at the same time, it doesn't amount to more than AFKing in a nice place.
Yeah,
like, that's not really playing a game, is it? Like,
yeah, but rich people spend a lot of money for the privilege of not doing anything and having all the things done for them. As
Fair
I said
enough.
before, yeah. So what's, I suppose, just traveling from one exotic location to the other in style would be that one of those gameplay loops, which is why it really doesn't appeal to me, because it's basically just slow traveling from one place to the other with nothing interesting going on.
So I think that being able to travel from A to B, sure, that's fine. I think that one gameplay loop that they can easily add is basically an elevated gameplay loop from other things. So instead of doing just cargo transit, or instead of doing passenger transit, just like standard passenger transit, it's an elevated like VIP passenger transit that you can only do with those ships because those NPCs wouldn't be caught dead in like the back of your Mustang Beta or something.
Yeah.
So I think that VIP travel and transit would most likely be one of the main gameplay loops in a luxury ship.
Yeah, sure, but that means you're still working, though.
You're still working?
You're still working, yeah.
Sure. I mean, you're
properly
the pilot
rich people don't work.
You're the pilot of the ship. You're the pilot of the ship. You're not the passenger. That's a whole different thing, Like, as a passenger, I guess, what gameplay loops do you have? Ordering drinks?
I suppose the proper gameplay, luxury gameplay, is reserved for all those NPCs that you will be ferrying about in your 890 jump.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean, I feel like, yeah, sure, the NPCs will be like the end stage, like VIP, like luxury guy, but at the same time.
So that's the win scenario, becoming an NPC.
You heard it here
first. You can't
first,
pay
folks.
for that. There is no actual pay to win in Star Citizen. It has been disproven. There we go.
So, wow. A few years ago, though, they did mention how you could purchase like a separate account and that can be like an NPC. So, maybe not yet. Maybe we haven't solved this just yet. But I guess what else? Like other emerging gameplay things. I mean, like I actually found this Reddit post a while ago, right? And like some people were talking about this kind of thing and what kind of gameplay loops you could find. And some people mentioned like unique escort missions, for instance. I don't really see much else.
But if we're pulling parallels from real world, before racing became a professional sport, like just even a couple of decades ago, it was solely the domain of the gentleman racer, like the aristocrats that could afford a racing team, could afford a car, and could afford all the licensing and fees that were associated with racing. So only those kind of people were racers. Right. So I suppose that could see a return, like no professional, or very few professional racers, or maybe half professional racers that have A-list sponsors, like AMD, but the other half is basically rich people that fund everything themselves.
That's fair enough, I guess. Yeah. So racing, the Murray Cup, that kind of thing. They did mention that there will be racing insurance in the game as well. I mean, like I think was it the Razor in the Razor's brochure, they actually mentioned the name of this NPC guild that was specifically for racers and stuff. And
I
like
do not remember.
it was like it would basically be the AA or the AAA or whatever it's called for luxury racecraft and stuff. So you may have a point there, yeah, racing, because like after a while, destroying your ship so many times, even with LTI, is going to be very expensive to expedite the repair cost, because I believe there is going to be a diminishing return for every single time you blow up your ship. There's going to be a longer time you have to wait to get it back.
Yeah, or a higher price associated with expediting that return.
Or both, and which scale, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. But what else? Yeah. I mean, other than, just maybe even just, fishing from the back of your 890 jump.
VIP. I mean, so for gameplay, it's an interesting one. I don't even know.
Yep.
I mean, but maybe. So they have mentioned actually how the way you dress, the way you act, and your hygiene will affect the way certain NPCs interact with you and how they like you and all that kind of stuff, right? So maybe and that was what they called the morale system, and that might affect like how much reputation you get with specific characters. So maybe that could scale up into what you do with specific craft. So like, let's say if you do a mission in a Constellation Phoenix to transit somebody, then you'll get a higher reputation bonus because they had a comfy ride, for instance. Or yeah, maybe. As an idea.
The smoothest ride to Boros for anyone can pay. Yeah.
Yes. So what about luxury components?
Luxury components. Well, how would they be differentiated from a normal component?
So Origin has this thing called, I think it's called AirTech, and it's proprietary to only Origin ships, as far as I know, that comes standard with it. Maybe you can buy it for other ships, but it's an Origin thing, and it allows Origin ships to basically just fly in atmosphere without needing to refuel almost ever.
Ooh.
So that is a luxury like engine, right? Maybe the ships don't fly as fast or as far or as efficiently at top speeds, but they can fly almost indefinitely in the air. Maybe that could be a luxury item. I mean, it does sound like a luxury item, doesn't it? But other than that, I mean, apart from just the components looking cool, like
yeah. Well, but the components are locked away, behind panels, so it doesn't really matter what they look like.
Depending on the ship. Sometimes they're exposed. Sometimes you open the panel and you can see them. Like the Sakura Sun engines and stuff. You open it and all of a sudden your ship is bathed in pink light.
Yeah.
So
it's glorious.
So I think those kind of exist, but again, it depends on how to what extent and how they would want to make them work. Would they just provide very weird niche things like the ability to not have to go refuel very often for the price of a slower ship?
That could be a cool thing, yeah. Like just have a bit of a quirk in their functionality that others don't have, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
because all the other components are just more efficient at what they do, or more robust, or cheaper to run, but they don't have that little special extra something.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about cosmetics before, and now I'm just thinking of what else can we make cosmetic in Star Citizen? You know, like, for instance, in Elite Dangerous, they kind of make everything cosmetic, you know, from the lights in your ship to the contrails that come out, you can color those things. So what is unique in Star Citizen that we could change that's cosmetic, that's like that? And I was thinking, the quantum drive. Maybe we can like change the particle effects of the quantum drive and have all these like different like quantum colors and stuff. Like the Xi'an one is already so different. Maybe you can have one that looks like the Aurora Borealis or something inside there, like something crazy.
I wonder if you can buy the Xi'an quantum drive and put it in another ship. Will you have the same sort of effect?
I would hope so.
Is the effect connected to the actual quantum drive component?
I would hope so. That'd be really cool to see.
That
if you
would
could try
be
it out
cool,
now.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that that could easily be either a luxury thing or something that CIG just go, hey, money plus, and then they just sell it and it's whatever. But that'd be a cool thing to see regardless of if it's like in lore as a luxury thing. Like a kaleidoscope, kind of like Quantum Drive. Oh, man. Now I want it.
or a neon cat, colored.
That's when they'd go too far, and I would play Anthem instead.
All right. Okay. Do we have any other ideas? Does chat have any other ideas?
Does chat have any ideas for luxury gameplay or luxury items in Star Citizen? What do you think? Let's see. Glow says diamond-studded fuel filters. I mean, sure. Let's say you have an 85X and you have external
activated
components.
diamond.
What diamond?
Activated diamond.
Activated diamond.
Well, because you have activated carbon filters, right?
Oh, I see.
And diamonds are just compressed carbon items.
Right. I gotcha.
It's stupid, but it's kind of there.
I guess it just, the conversation kind of just goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like what is luxury in other games, right? And the fact that in other games anything you pay money for that other people can't earn otherwise is a luxury item. So
yeah,
cosmetic items and that kind of thing.
But sure, functionality-wise, though, it was promised to us, and I will hold them to that promise, for whatever it takes, that nothing that you can buy with actual money you wouldn't be able to earn with in-game grinding.
I hope so. Anthem Kamala says luxury apartments. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier with the Habs, and that's something that I want to see. And I want to see, I mean, like, so Darj is kind of strongly on the other side of this conversation with that. And so that's what
I'm all for it. I just don't want them to set an artificial limit on how many there are.
But that's what I'm all for. That's what I'm all for. And I like that there is that that clash in opinion, because if there is that much difference in our opinions here on this two-man podcast, you can bet that there's going to be that kind of rift in
if nothing else, we could get Test Squadron, like the richest people in Test Squadron could pool all their money, give it to CIG, and have them actually build a building on a planet, because
I don't think CIG would do that, because there was another game, I think it still exists, where you could do that. And I forget what it was called, but yeah, people actually spent real money to get the devs to make them a moon and inhabit it and stuff. Yeah, let's not. Let's see. Kavixen says, with the question, if I want to pimp my Banu merchantman to be a flying exclusive shop with only the finest bling blings, etc., compared to the common riff-raff, will I get lights below my ship in neon colors and Oxbridge educated staff? I mean,
yes.
Again, yeah, cosmetics. You should be able to get cosmetics and stuff. And yeah, the Banu merchantman's supposed to have stores in it. So really, it's up to you as the player.
It's a flying bazaar, yeah.
To stock it whatever you want. Ah, yes, the game is called Entropia Universe, and it was not like that. The devs made the moon and sold it at auction. Ah, I see. So the devs sold the moon at auction with real money. Right. Doesn't make it any better. Right. But so I guess just to touch on that question again, I mean, not the question, but like the apartment thing. I would like to see artificial scarcity work in that way, because it gives the players something to work towards and something to value. You know, like
sure, but if you do spend all that time working towards it, even if you don't pay a single real world cent for it, if you spend all that time working towards it, you earn all that money, and then you go to the dealer and you want to rent one of those habs, and they're not available, then what?
Get the second better one until the other person can't pay their rent anymore, and like put your put your dibs on it for when it's available next, or make one of them your friend and go see it and go, you got a nice hab, what a nice place to log in and out from, because end of the day, that's all it is.
Yeah, that's true. But I suppose that those luxury hubs will eventually replace community hangars. I should stop doing this.
Yeah.
Because we've been waiting for that for so long. To have a social space where you can invite your friends, just to hang out and look at your ship, but you can do that now, sort of, in L19.
Yeah. I mean,
technically,
hopefully,
if you spawn in your hab and all your friends, gather in front of the door of your hab, and you open the door and don't exit, and everybody just piles in, then there we go.
House party.
House party. Because that's the only way you could do it right now.
We will be getting ArcCorp again very soon. ArcCorp used to be the social area in Star Citizen. You couldn't see or talk to anybody else unless you went to ArcCorp. We're getting that back again. So I really do hope that they are making it again from the ground up with that in mind, as a social kind of area for people to like hang out and talk to and that kind of stuff. Like
all I want basically is to get back into my hab.
To get back into your hab.
After I exit, I don't want the door to lock permanently behind me.
That used to be a feature. Wasn't that nice? But it's no longer a feature anymore. Yeah, nope. Like back when we only had Port Olisar, you could go back into your hab. That hab was yours.
Could you?
Yeah, you could. Like only you could. You could access the door.
Yeah, but that one's basically a bed and a
poster,
book.
Maybe some
noodles, and a poster,
some tissues.
Yeah, the habs in Hurston are at least somewhat reminiscent of an apartment.
Yeah, the habs in Hurston are nice because it almost looks like something you want to go back and return to. They've mentioned in the past that you'd be able to decorate them and make them feel more like your own with different light sources and pets.
Once they're actually attributed to a single person, not just randomly allocated as a spawn point when you log in.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess something to look forward to. But as far as the luxury conversation goes, I mean, like, have we touched on every single topic that we can think of?
Well, not being a person accustomed very much to the luxury lifestyle, I really can't think of anything else now.
I guess we have then.
Yeah.
But chat. But in other news, this Friday, Todd Pappy talked a lot about other like development stuff, right? Like things that are happening in the future.
I haven't seen it.
All right. Well, I won't spoil it for you or anybody else in chat, but I will say this one thing that he confirmed. So in Hurston, in Lorville, the way to get from A to B, once you're within the city limits, is with trains. They actually mentioned on Friday that they're not using trains for ArcCorp. They're using something completely different. They're using, you want to guess? Or do you know?
I think I actually have seen a discussion of this on Reddit. It's like space bus or something like that.
Yeah, space buses. How cool is that?
But it's not going to be a bus that goes into orbit, and then I suppose it would have to be if you want to go onto the other side of the planet.
Right. But no, it's not like it does. I don't think it goes into orbit. But it will take you from like the spaceport to Area 18, for instance, and wherever else you can go to.
So, but it'll be like let's say just, one of those trains, but it will fly instead of go
basically
along
a flying train on an eccentric spline, basically.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
because we don't have any vertical. Like any verticality currently in Hurston. It's basically all on the ground.
Yeah. It'd be really cool to see them like weaving through like the buildings and stuff as well. That same way.
Yeah.
The only thing
because one of the tropes for these mega cities in sci-fi has been traffic lanes up in the air. Moving between buildings. You have that in Star Wars, and even. Like ArcCorp before it was not denounced, but removed
Refurbished.
from the game. Had in the distance, you could see, lights moving,
Right.
just from traffic.
Yeah.
That's definitely something I would like to see.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it because I want to see. Well, in my mind, what I see is like with the Fifth Element and like just flying and the other NPC like cars
That
and
one as
carts
well,
everywhere
yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Or like as you mentioned, Star Wars, where like they're on the cars and stuff. I want to see that, but in the Star Citizen universe, even if you were not able to do it yourself and fly it yourself, you're in the you're in that space bus and you can see it all happening around you. But they did mention that you'll be able to fly in between buildings and stuff in our corp, but only the more bespoke ones closer to Area 18. The other ones that just kind of cover the planet, not so much, because
it will be a no-fly zone. Yeah,
it'll have to be, because otherwise it will just be too ugly close up. And they're doing it for aesthetic reasons, not because they would.
And they don't want. Yeah, those buildings are not going to be very highly detailed, just because it would be far too expensive to run. They need to. It's part of the optimization. So, at the sort of distance that you will be able to approach them, it will be. They will look fine.
Yeah, exactly. But they did mention that with the more bespoke buildings near Area 18, you'll actually be able to land on top of them. Now, it kind of confuses me as to what you would actually you'd be doing, seeing as it's all a city, right? But apparently they're like, yeah, you'll be able to like have sniper battles because it's not going to be all armistice zones and stuff. I mean, I guess you could, because they're releasing the new ballistic system very soon, where like that'll allow you to do that kind of thing.
I do wonder what sort of changes they will add to that. Will they remove the distance limitations?
I think that's what it is. They'll be removing the distance limitation.
So if you shoot a bullet, it will eventually hit something.
Reminds me of that Mass Effect quote.
Yep.
But it'd be interesting to see if that's the case and how much of an effect it'll have on the servers and stuff if it does. Because can you imagine like just everybody just firing at once, just like all these big bullets?
Yeah, especially if you have a Gatling gun or something that's like 100 bullets per minute. Tracking all of those, it'll be a nightmare.
Yeah. Ubernerd, thank you for the raid even, mentions there will be missions inside high-rise buildings similar to the evict missions on Lorville. That's true. You'll be able to go inside some of these buildings. That's very true. But how many of them in our corp? I guess that's the question. Because
we'll have to wait until it's in. I mean, all we have for now is a video of our corp.
Yeah, and because of course it's on a procedural seed, every single time they make a big update to the game, and the seed changes, then certain buildings and stuff won't be where they were. Not the like bespoke ones, but the
the seed will make sure it is in exactly the same space if they use the same seed.
No, but yeah,
if they change the generation, sure, but once they have the generation down pat, the fact, if they keep the seed, which they should, it means the procedural generation will make sure everything is exactly where it's supposed to be, because that doesn't happen now. Like sometimes I've seen it.
It changes a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially with the mineable rocks, you can have them, intersecting outposts, or there was one that was basically prevented me from driving away from Lipsky, and you can drive out of the courtyard with a Cyclone or an Ursa, and it was just there in the middle of the path.
Right.
What am I supposed to do now? But yeah, if they keep the generation and keep the same seed, every time it regenerates, it should be everything should be exactly the same spot.
Right. I think other than that, I don't think there was anything else that I want to bring up from the RTV, because you haven't seen it yet, and obviously I don't want to spoil too much of it because you want to watch it yourself.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, no. But yeah, I think as far as luxury goes, because we were discussing that, I think that was the topic of today. That was our discussion.
Yep, it was.
Yeah,
and I think it's been beaten to death quite
luxuriously. Yeah,
quite luxuriously. Yes.
So I did the intro. You can do the outro.
I will do the outro.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mean... Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of Fortnightly Frontier. Thank you so much for joining us both on Twitch and on YouTube and on SoundCloud and wherever you may be watching and or listening to us. I have been Darjanator.
And I have
Over there has been Myre.
That's me. I think.
And damn it, you messed me up. See ya.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you for watching.